Ari?
जी आ रही है
Yes,
बिल्कुल
Ari.
ओके
Sir,
वी आर जी वी कैन
sir, you
स्टार्ट
live now.
जी जी ओके थैंक यू जी everyone ladies and gentlemen assalamu alaikum it's a pleasure to be here and very excited to have a very distinguished set of panelists we have here and the topic we are going to talk about is a very important one. It is actually giving sleepless nights to a lot of CEOs and CFOs around the world, especially in Pakistan. And the topic that we have is how to create resilience and sustainability in times of uncertainties. Among the panelists, we have Mr. Khalid Mahmood. He's an FCMA belonging to NBP Funds Management Limited and was working as a CFO here. He has more than 20 years of experience and is a member of the National Council of ICMAP and former chairman of its Karachi Branch Council. He is a member of PAIB Committee of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, and he's also a member of the General Body of FPCCI. The topics of great interest to him are economy and governance, and he has written a number of articles in various newspapers and journals. So we are very glad to have you here on the panel. Next, we have Mr. Shahnur Sultan. He is a fellow member of ICAP, and he's also an MSc in International Development from University of Bath, UK. He is a certified internal auditor and is from the Institute of Internal Auditors, the US, and he's working as a VP Operations and Finance at Habib University. He is extensively involved in social and community services and a very passionate follower of cricket. Glad to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
And finally, last but not least, we have Mr. Mohammad Humair. He's also a fellow member of ICAP and he's a CFO for private companies in Dawood Hercules Group. He's a part of the Advisory Council of Tech Pakistan and a member of PIB Committee of ICAP. He's also a mentor of for ICAP mentorship program for the young chartered accountants, and he's also very passionate about SDG and ESG topics, and he has presented papers on international forums as well. So very glad to have all of you here on the panel. So let me just throw a question to you all, and this question can be answered anyone by anyone, and we have no particular order. You can answer this question. Now, you see a lot of socio-economic as well as political changes are confronting the businesses, not only in Pakistan, but also around the world. What, in your opinion, are the two top challenges that your organization is facing today? And what did your organization do to handle these challenges and ensure that these adverse effects are minimized? So anyone can take charge here.
If I may
Sure.
start with
I will take
basically,
this, Saad. Thank you for that generous introduction and uh, good afternoon to all my colleagues, Shanu Saab, Khalid, and Saad Usman. So basically, I work in Dow Hercules Group, so we have lots of operating entities working there, even in textile sector and then project management side, and also in IT side as well. So the most important challenge right now we have is not the availability of funds, but the I must say the flow of funds in the economy. So, for example, if vendors are not making payments or they are not getting their LCs cleared, so the overall cycle is getting delayed, which happen, which is I must say impairing the overall project development cycle, and which is the most important thing in our project teams, which we are delivering right now, most specifically in AI and machine learning projects, which we are delivering to global clients. So, in that perspective, the most important thing is the flow of cycle among overall in the economy at various stakeholders is not happening at the pace which it should have been. The other thing which we are facing right now is the most important element right now is the uncertainty element. And in that perspective, nobody is willing to take any specific measure with respect to cost optimization, with respect to project enhancements, investments, or in any type of thing which are longer term duration. People are mostly towards shorter term duration. So longer term perspective, people are not taking considering the uncertainty. So these are the two most important challenges right now we have. But to counter those things, what we are doing most probably is having a specific क्लाइंट एंड क्लाइंट बेसिस के ऊपर हमने जो है ना वो स्पेसिफिक टास्क असाइन किए हैं एंड फॉर दैट मैटर व्हाट वी आर डूइंग फॉर सम क्लाइंट्स वी आर ओपनिंग द LCs for on our own behalf to make sure that as we have some export business available to us, so we are channelizing those things to make the raw material coming in and the imported specific circuits and such type of project related equipments coming into Pakistan. So we are helping them out to our vendors as well. Uh, on the other side, with respect to uncertainty thing, we are offering or we are ourselves what we have done is that we are moving towards short-term specific gain-oriented side of things to make sure that we monetize on assets which are short-term on a short-term basis. So monetization of assets which are on a longer-term horizon, we are monetizing those assets and now investing in a short-term period.
Okay, very interesting thought. Khalisa, would you want to add to something on this topic since you
Yeah,
are belonging to a financial industry? So, what kind of specific challenges are you facing in financial industry?
yes. So obviously, I think we should have this three or four spectrum. First, to look at the challenges at the world level, obviously, the recession is the problem of the entire world. And then we have oil crisis issues just because of the Russian war and all those things. Then we come to the country level, is another spectrum. And right now, we all know that our country is facing the uh, economic challenge and all the fiscal discipline issues and all these things. And due to that, we are continuously observing the rising discount rates trend and the scenario, which is
Khalisa, I would
basically
request to. I would request if you can speak a little louder. I think I'm not the only one who's having some problem hearing you. Others can also confirm. But if you can speak a little louder, it would be easier for us. Thank you.
okay. I will try. I will try. Now, is it more clear?
It's better. Yes, better.
Okay. So as I have said that the issue at the country level is that the right now we are facing and observing the economic issues, the fiscal discipline issues, and due to which we are continuously observing the rising interest rate scenario, which is basically causing the additional cost of business, and the business is facing continuous challenges that. Other is the obviously exchange reserve issues, as mentioned by Umer. And specific to our industry, again, it's a trickle-down effect when the economy faces the problem. Every sector has to bear the consequences. So, one of the sector, which is the equity fund, is the stock fund, is very volatile, is not performing, and obviously we are facing problem in getting the investment in that class of the investment funds. So equity funds are in problem. On the other hand, the other due to the high discount rate, the other sectors which are performing well are the money market mutual funds, just because of the higher discount rate. So they are yielding very attractive returns of around 20%. So uh, this was a challenge at the our industry level, and then we are in general facing the number of challenges with regard to continuous changing business model and the technological disruption. So these common factors across the industry posing challenges and pressure, particularly on the CEO and the CFO, being the central position of the C-suite.
That's correct.
So that's my take on the general issues.
Yes, very pertinent point, Harisa. Technological disruptions are also affecting a lot of industries these days. And Shanu, I think you're working in education sector, so you might not be directly affected by the increase in raw material prices or let's say increase in exchange rates. But still, since you are working in Pakistan economy, so you might also be affected negatively by the developments or the downsides of the economic perils that we have. So, what in your organization you are facing at the moment? Any particular challenges?
Yes. Let me just say, give you a quick perspective. Maybe those of you are probably not aware about the university. So the Naveed University is basically a liberal arts private university. But the important part is that we are actually owned by the larger community. society own it. And a significant number of our students are on the scholarship, financial aids. 85% of the student body, in fact, if I need to be precise. So if we are looking the perspective, the way Pakistan is currently handling the challenges and the way things are happening, so I just present there are the challenges from the three perspective and then what we are trying to address. First of all, I think the kind of faculty members which we have all the faculty members who are actually global faculty. It means that it's not they have an opportunity in the Pakistan only. They have opportunity to work in the Middle East, in Europe, in Australia. In fact, we have quite a decent number of expats on the campus. And that actually the currency devaluation has actually significantly impacted their compensation, and so that's a significant impact. Which again, as an institution which is a global institution which has a lot of global faculty, so it's a challenge which we have faced, and but we are trying to address it. At least last October, and we did a special adjustment cycles, and then again this October. We are going to make significant adjustment in our compensation just to ensure that we remain competitive and we continue to attract quality faculty and retain them from the perspective. As I mentioned, we are one of the most generous university, not only probably in Pakistan but in the region, and significant students are dependent on scholarships and financial aids. And with the current economic situation, even those students who can in the normal times can pay, even it's challenging for them. We are receiving increasing requests for additional scholarship, financial aid. So that's another challenge that those who can in normal times can pay. I think finding it difficult even to pay whatever the portion of the fees which they were supposed to pay. And simultaneously, as I said, since we are owned by the community, larger society who are our contributor, and they are having a significant challenges in their businesses, so their contribution, their support is actually again is impacting. But to counter all these, I think that things what we did, I think although we saw the seeds earlier, but now we are seeing the fruits that we have opened our international chapters in the US, in UK, in Canada. So lots of fundraising, I think, has been diverted to those international chapters, and it's because of again exchange parity, which on the other hand is actually is hampering us. But on the other hand, I think the funds which we are receiving, I think, are providing good support to run our operation. But most importantly, I would say that we are actually implemented a strict financial discipline. It means that we need to keep an eye as far as balances of inflow and outflows are concerned. So that's the key, and I would say prudence and I think this is crucial in this testing time.
Right. So very. So we are all in the same boat actually, and since I can also talk with some experience, I'm working in a pharmaceutical company. So although we are in a sort of an essential industry at the moment, and the government is giving priority to the imports and all, but we can also see the brunt of the economic perils that everyone is facing. So I think we are all in the same boat, whether we work in education sector or in the financial or any other sector for that matter. We're all in the same boat. So that brings us to another topic that since most of these challenges are affecting every organization, and should the organizations look up to the government for support, for example, tax breaks or subsidies, and if they get anything from the government, will these work in the long term? And how far does lobbying work in Pakistan? Again, I would request Humair, can you answer this question first?
Start, there was distortion. I missed the last part of the question.
Oh, okay. So I'll repeat it. I'm just saying that since these issues that
We
we have
all
just
are in,
discussed,
yeah, we all
we
in
are
the
all in
same
the
boat,
same
right?
boat. We have been all negatively affected, adversely affected. So my question is, should the government, the companies, the corporates in Pakistan, should they look up to the government for support in terms of tax breaks or subsidies or targeted subsidies from the government? And if they get anything from the government, will they work in the long term? And how far do you think lobbying will help corporates in Pakistan?
Right. I just missed the lobbying part. So, important element that, and one should not miss the lobbying part.
Yes, yes, true.
So, but I have been part of Pakistan Business Council and OICCI as well. So we have been
Mhm.
raising our voices from various forums. But unfortunately, from PBC and even from OICCI, whatever messages, consolidated messages we are forwarding towards government, the only return message we are getting is that there is no way for the next 2 to 3 years there will be no subsidy in any sector, and please don't ask for subsidy because right now we are in a fix that even we have to get any minute discrepancy removal, we have to get an approval from IMF. So in that perspective, subsidy is not on cards at all for the next, I believe, 2 to 3 years, mm, as far as we are in the IMF plan. The other thing is that we have to have our own businessmen or these forums, OICCI, FPCCI, and all these Pakistan Business Council have to have one voice. And in that perspective, we all know that at this point in time, the fund flows we have is very restricted. So, what alternate export-oriented business we are looking at, and what type of export-oriented concessions we can get from government is the thing which can be discussed. So, in that perspective, government may listen that yes, if this is an export-oriented sector, or this can increase the inflow of US dollars and any currency in Pakistan, then they have a chance to look at the concession things. Otherwise, there will be no such type of thing in the next situation.
Considering the exchange rate scenarios in Pakistan, the exports are becoming competitive. But the problem with Pakistan is that most of the raw material for exports is also imported. So, on the other hand, the cost of doing business in Pakistan is increasing day by day because of inflation and because of utility increases, fuel price increases, and all that. So, what do you think would be a better option? So, should we focus more on doing exports or import substitution, or should we focus on services rather, where we can only export services in terms of whatever talents that we have in Pakistan, or we can go all together and in exporting our manpower to developed countries, since we can't use them properly in Pakistan, so we can at least export them and get some foreign exchange.
Yes. So the right now at this point in time, capital intensive projects are on hold. So in that perspective, there will be no such type of industry which has to be built on. And the institutions we are like Habib University, KSBL, LUMS, we are producing very good talent at the ICAP as well and ICMA. We are producing very good talent, and when it is same as in case of doctors as well and engineers as well. So the export of talent is the thing which we have to take advantage of. And right now, as we know that IT sector is export from IT sector is on the cards from and is on the top priority of the government as well. So IT sector export from services side is one priority, and then export of other talents, service talents, is on the side as well. And to get this thing going on, most of the developed countries are now having certain leniency towards providing visas and business visas and work permit visas to Pakistanis and top talented individuals. So in that perspective, the bottleneck is now removing from export of talent perspective. These are the two things: IT export side and the export of talents, which we have in our pipeline, and it is mushrooming on a day by day basis because the youth we have has to be catered in a way. And the best thing right now we have is considering the lack of opportunities in our own scenario, we can export them out, and especially towards entrepreneur side as well. So the work which incubation centers are doing on a larger scale is doing a good job.
Right. Okay. Good point. Khalid sir, what do you think? Organization in wake of certain uncertainties, how can your company or for other companies for that matter can create competitive advantage because in this at this point in time, sustainability itself a very big question. So, can efficient companies use this challenge as an opportunity and create competitive advantage over others, and maybe do an introspection and find out ways to make themselves more efficient and more competitive in the marketplace, especially in the export areas, as Humay just mentioned.
First, I would like to just briefly touch upon your earlier point that I think we should forget about the relief and the subsidies and all these things. Pakistan is not in a position to have such luxuries. The sectors
Mm.
cannot get the such luxuries until unless there is a significant and very tangible sort of level playing field issues and injustices. Otherwise, you can't expect any subsidy and like that. I think we need to really work on the fundamentals on this. Now, coming to that question, that with all these uncertainties, that the world is full of uncertainties, continuous disruptions, business model, tight disruptions, and all these things. We are seeing that the combustion engine. First, are you hearing me properly?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, you can. It would be still better if you can speak a little louder, but it's almost fine. Yeah.
Uh, Now it's better.
Yes, it's okay. Yeah.
So we are saying that the EV, the combustion engine are being replaced by EV, and then the conventional banking is moving towards the digital banking, conventional asset management moving towards the digital asset management. We have already gone through and observed the transition of the rented transportation in the form of Uber and Careem. So the world has changed and it's continuously changing. So we just need to look upon the opportunities inherently we have right now for innovation and invention continuously. So, as I mentioned earlier, that automation and the digitalization is the new corporate world order. Okay, so everything is going towards the digitalization. So that provides the opportunity for getting the operational efficiency, for providing the high quality customer services. So we seriously look into this, all these avenues for the growth and for survival and the sustainability as well in the future. So everything which is are coming in uncertain way, we need to quickly respond it in a much efficient and much responsible manner. We cannot get cannot live with the luxury of legacy philosophy that what made you the successful in the past is going to be effective to make you remain the successful in the future. So the innovation, technological advancement, development, all these are the tools, particularly with the service sectors as well as the FMCGs and the manufacturing sector as well. So we continuously emphasizing on these areas. And secondly, with regard to the manufacturing and the export oriented, yes, I would endorse that we need to really work on the substitution. It is very unfortunate a country having a steel mill is still importing the steel from the other country. So we really need to work on the import substitution as well.
Okay, but the point remains here is why have not Pakistani companies done anything in innovation so far? We have got our independence 75 years ago, and we still are facing challenges in terms of export. Our imports are more than double our exports, and we are always having this kind of a situation. Pakistan हमेशा नाजुक दौर से गुजर रहा होता है, and we have actually grown up listening to that particular statement. So why haven't the companies so far done anything on innovation front? What do you think, Khalisa?
I think companies are doing now at present. Companies are doing to greater extent on the innovation on all these things. The problem is that this country is not designed in that way. It's a long issue of the misgovernance, fiscal discipline, and all these things. Uh, we are heavily dependent on the import for the value-added export-oriented sectors as well. So it is very unfortunate. We should have looked upon all these things much earlier in the past, and we should have planned and managed the things accordingly. That how we should move forward and going in for the future. But the thing is that right now it's a time has already gone. So whenever you start a new paradigm, it takes time. So in certain sectors, you will see the lot of innovation and invention is happening right now. In the other sectors, yes, they are also catching it up. But the main thing is that the raw material and all these tangible things which are not available, and the over and above is the exchange rate reserve issues, and all these are making the showstopper. Innovation will cannot overcome or substitute these fundamental issues and tangible issues. So innovation will work and will support when you have you address the all the fundamental and the long-rooted issues of the misgovernance and the lack of planning with regard to the raw material input availability and how we should have evolved the entire our industry and manufacturing units. So my take
So
is that.
innovation is the key. Bottom line is innovation is the key.
Yes, yes,
Shanu, do you agree that the education institutes in Pakistan, they are actually teaching our students to be innovative and think outside the box, rather than following a particular line of towing a particular line of getting an MBA or an engineering or whatever, and just settle for a good paying job in an MNC or maybe move abroad. So are we doing anything to foster innovation in Pakistani marketplace?
Thank you, Saf. I think this is a very good question. If we are looking, I think the history of Pakistan, as we already discussing, that it's not the situation which has arisen right now. You rightly said that Pakistan also goes guzar raha hai, or I think we have been using this term since our birth. So if we are looking at Pakistan, the way the nation, unfortunately, the way we have grown, developed. Pakistan, for example, if you're looking at the Human Development Index, is ranked somewhere in 140s, taken out of 160 countries which have been ranked. And the peer groups which we are looking, where we have been placed with Nigeria, and Sudan, and Rwanda, Haiti, taken unfortunately. That clearly shows the kind of investment on human development which country have been doing is actually is not exist at all. Pakistan can, if we are looking the people who are actually coming out from the universities or even from the colleges, taken how many are actually continuing staying in Pakistan and what percentage are actually migrating. If we are looking from the good universities, I think good colleges, the people, I think so. I think they were very fraction of the people are being actually reached to that particular point. Who can get a good quality education. And out of those, a significant number of people actually leave Pakistan for one reason or another. As far as the human development of the society is concerned, I think we have not made any investment. And today, whatever we are seeing, it's actually happened just because of the result of 1, 2, or 5 years. Whatever has happened, it's actually, as you pointed out, since the 75 years. And there is no Nescafe solution. Nescafe, I would say, the way we actually prepared the instant coffee, so it's a Nescafe instant solution. So unless we have a proper plan and we make the right investments at the right level for the development of the society, that will only bring Pakistan back to that track. A lot needs to be done. So we need to again reflect back. I think we have examples from neighboring countries. I don't need to name, but I think there are lots of comparison already. I think we have seen in the WhatsApp group and on the different articles and the newspapers. So it's a real reflection time. Okay, where we stand and what are our priorities as a nation, and until we start from the scratch, I think it will become very difficult. The other day I was just listening and somebody quoted, I don't have the exact numbers, but just to give greater perspective, that the populations and youths are always been a major resources for the nations. Top 6 countries of the world contribute around 45% of the world GDP, something around that. 45% of the world GDP coming from the top 6 populated country. Pakistan is one of those. What is the contribution of Pakistan? Less than 1%. It means other 5 countries are actually contributing 44% of the GDP of the world. So something is really wrong. And this means that if you have that kind of youth, that kind of population, it's impossible that we must be doing something terribly wrong that we are the state in which we are currently in. Even if we start from the scratch, from the zero, but with the right priority, it will just take few years and we will be up. But I think it's important that we reflect and see what our priorities and where investment should be made.
But the $1 million question would be, who is going to take charge of this? Because we always say we have to do this, we need to reflect back, we have to sit and we have to make consensus. But who among us is going to take charge on this? Should we leave it to the government? Should we leave it to the big business groups? Should we leave it to the politicians? What should be done? And in particular, what I can do in my organization to foster that?
If I
I
just
think
can
if you have maybe just 1 minute and then I just maybe Khalid will continue. I would say I think the overall civil society needs to step up. Civil society, what I mean, various organizations who have a common purpose and common interest to achieve the common objectives. Whether it's a society of the businessmen, whether it's a society of accountant, whether it's a society of bankers, whether it's a society of media, whether it's a society of doctors, engineers. So this is again, we need to stand up. I think we need to formulate. I think really invest in the progress of the civil society, and then civil society need to take up. Politics is also part of civil society, but again, people need to come to the mainstream and taking this issue seriously, and then develop a proper plan which can be implemented. If you are looking at somebody from the it's a Messiah syndrome, that somebody will come from outside and solve our problem, it's not going to happen. It should come from inside. So that's what you can please have to share it.
Okay, Khalid sir, we can continue.
Yeah, I think it cannot be solely the one stakeholders. Obviously, we can't depend on the government. If we leave it with the government, forget about it. I think it should be ideally with the public-private partnership led by and supported by and activated by various business councils, societies, forums, professional forums like ICAP, ICMP, and other academia, the university and all these things. Then the business councils and forums, so FTCCI and all of these bodies. So, but the unfortunate thing is that it's by nature as a nation, we are not as proactive to all these challenges and issues and potential risks and all these things. For example, till before COVID, I think we were not aware of the or used to have the transaction through e-commerce. But the COVID basically compelled us finally to move to that direction. Whereas in all over the world, in every corner of the world, in every country, was doing hefty size of the e-commerce transactions. All this. So we need to realize that the status quo is an issue as a nation with us. That we are continuously keep moving with the existing systems, procedures, and the practices. We cannot we basically don't go to revisit it, reevaluate the things quite often as we should. So that's a main issue. Otherwise, we will be another example of the Nokia case, KPK, that they were in the illusion or the misapprehension that they have hefty size of the business, and that this Android-based touch mobile screens will not get the attention at large, and what happened that they just become the victim of their complacency and arrogance that they will reveal the king of this entire mobile business. So we need to really change our approach and the way we used to manage the things in the corporate world.
Okay, sure. Point taken. Humair, do you think companies in Pakistan, so we have talked about them on a macroeconomic level, so we can do public-private partnerships and we can do, it's a collective responsibility. So whatever manner we can, whatever forum we have, we can forward this thinking to basically innovate and do something positive for the country. But as far as individual corporates are concerned, for example, in your own group, what are you doing to ensure that whatever the negative challenges that we have faced, it includes a brain drain as well whenever we want to hire somebody on a junior level. So I'm always finding challenges in finding a suitable candidate, because people are the bright people want to leave the country, they don't want to stay back, and the mediocre ones, those who can't leave, they are available for the jobs. So it's hard to find a good talent for a particular role. So what, in your opinion, what your organization is doing at the moment to overcome these challenges, finding suitable talent? For example, we have already talked about the LCs, you have already mentioned the payment issues, LCs issues, the vendors cannot be paid on time, all of these things. So these are things that are temporary, but more on a longer perspective, that talent issue, I think, is far more important, because we are facing sort of a scarcity at the moment. I am not talking about professional institutes, but generally speaking. So what do you do in your organization?
Right. Thanks, Saad. Basically, you're right to an extent that talent is not retention of a good talent is important, and hiring of a good talent is. So there are two elements. One, I must first explain about the hiring of a new talent. So in that perspective, the most important element is doing partnership with academia, like we have done with KSBL, and majority of the business groups are doing the same thing, likewise in case of House of Habib, and similarly with the plus Descon as well. So these big groups have their own academies. From there, they can have a pipeline of good talent coming in, and for that matter, if the good talent is there, then of course the first priority is to hire them, but to retain them is another challenge. Why they should retain here, where the overall scheme of arrangement vis-a-vis trust deficit from a global perspective of Pakistani institutions is getting low by low. So the trust of Pakistani qualifications are also diminishing. So in that perspective, the retention of good talent is important, and for that matter, having the exchange program, what we are doing right now is exploring how to have an exchange program so that we can send our certain level of individuals outside Pakistan to learn from various good organizations, and for that matter, we have been in touch with institutions like McKinsey, institutions like Bain and Co, and other institutions as well globally, to have on a longer term horizon, that on an exchange program basis. So our assistant manager and manager people go there, serving there for 2 years program. There people coming on there. So in that perspective, people exchange ideas, and then they have their liberty that they can have a good global experience as well. So in that perspective, what we are doing, we are having an exchange program going on.
Fair enough. I think that's
Yeah.
a good point. Okay, I would
Khalid is
digress
saying
for a
something.
moment, and
Saad,
I think a question
if I,
for everyone.
Saad,
Khalid is
Yes,
saying
yes, sure.
something. Yeah.
if I go
Yes,
back there,
please.
I think it's another domain, and with regard to the continuing landscape. I think now we are dealing with the millennials and the Gen Z. Now, gone are the days when you considered that the long-term assistant would be 10 years or the beyond. Now, even 4 to 5
Absolutely.
years retention, and it stays the long-term the duration, frankly speaking. So how can we retain? First of all, yes, we have resources to hire and pick the good smart professionals. We have a number of good academia, and we can take from them. Now, the major thing is how can we retain? So these are very smart people, and as I mentioned, that the focus is more such a long term. So if they feel anything which is not as up to their expectations, and which is not based on the justice, they tend to swiftly immediately move and switch to the other organization. So I think we need to realize all these aspects, and we need to have a proper culture of rewarding, and which should be based on KPIs, well articulated, specific, on which we can make them accountable and can adequately and justifiably reward them. So that's very much important thing, because if you don't have a very fine structure with regard to the reward, remuneration, bonuses, compensation on all these things, I think that will certainly become an issue of the retention. So that's very important thing. The other aspects from the finance point of view, since I'm the chief financial officer, as well as the organization point of view as well, when you are you face this challenging time, and when you enter in this present crisis-like situation right now we are facing, then the first thing which we catch is the cost cutting. We start removing everything. We start cutting every edges, benefits, and all those things. Again, that goes wrong, and these people, particularly these generation, take it very negatively. So we need to be wise enough that how we this cost cutting exercise should be formulated, that the retention of the good resources should not be affected. So, and it should not be purely the cost
Valid
side,
point.
and that it should be matched with the revenue generation and revenue enhancement. So the human resource element get not affected by such things. So that's
I
important.
think it should be. You're right. I think it should be used as a last resort. Otherwise, all companies have some fat here and there, and they can cut those fat in terms of spending before they go on to slash the workforce. So this is, and once you slash your workforce, it gives a very negative message across the organization about the sustainability and security of the employment. So once the morale is down, then it will be very difficult to
I think
bring.
even before layoff or selection the resources, I think cutting their benefits on the perks is the signal which they sense
Yes.
very quickly. So that's our is also very important to pick.
Yes, perfect. Okay, I'm going to pose a different question now to all the panelists, and anyone can answer. Uh, Being a CFO myself in pharmaceutical company, I always face a challenge that whether I should focus on sustainability at the moment, or should I focus on growth even at this challenging time? Because I know for a fact that my competitors are facing the same similar issues and similar challenges. And if I've got some financial muscle available, then I may be more aggressive at the moment and get the higher market share from them, and actually grasp more market share from them, because they would be spending money on sustainability measures rather than growing. So what in your opinion is the best approach? If you can grow in this time, should you grow or should you just focus on sustainability? Anyone can answer.
If I may,
Yes, sure. Khalid, please go ahead.
okay. A very important question. I think very important one in this challenging time. I think uh, moving in formulation of a strategy towards the growth is inevitable. I think is a survival and sustainable issue. You cannot avoid it. You cannot avoid it. But the problem and challenge is that when you move towards these business model disruption and the tech disruptions, all these things require hefty capital deployment. Okay, and the issue is that such investments are made upfront, but the associated and resultant benefits start coming after a number of years. And initially, it reflects in the cost saving and the efficiency rather than the revenue generation. Now the problem is that for that certain good 3 4 years period, you have to basically compromise on the short-term profitability because this upfront cost incurred will reflect upon your bottom line, and it will affect your the quarterly results and the profitability. Now, we need to have a close liaison and the better relationship with the board and the sponsor, that how this long-term plan and the investment will ultimately serve the organization in the long-term sustainability and the competitive advantage. That's very important. Unless and until you have the concurrence and the acceptance and the patience by the sponsor and the board, you cannot easily go with these all options. So that's very critical and very much important. You should formulate and well articulate a specific strategy that will ultimately work. That's very important. The strategy should be workable and should
Yes.
have some concrete results. Otherwise, board will not and the sponsor will not
It's
come.
not necessarily, yeah.
So
Okay.
so from the CFO point of view and the finance professional point of view, it is another challenge because in initial phase, sometimes this investment might take you behind the competitors just because of the impact on the bottom line.
Mhm.
But
Shannon, would you
this
like
is
to
the
add
your
something to
role.
this?
It is your role, your
Yes.
CEO role to convince them.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So I think to respond, I think first I am going to just make a general statement, and maybe I'm just going to refer to one article. I think exercising prudence, I think in this time is the right way. Prudence, if you are looking, what's the meaning of prudence? Prudence means wisdom and cautiousness. I think in the uncertain time, again, we need to really be wise enough. Uh, Unless we are sure, we should not go aggressively, and we need to consolidate. And let's suppose if the organization institution have good enough resources, then I would say, I think it's a time to being a generous. Now, I just like to quote one article which I read, I think a few months back. I think it's in the CNN, which actually reflected the time of pandemic. And in the pandemic time, there are 573 new billionaires were made at the cost of 263 million people fell into poverty. 573 new billionaire,
Yeah.
573, that's all. While 263
Billion.
millions fell into poverty.
Yeah.
And then just, and besides tech, you understand Zoom and all these things, technology actually. But if we are looking, what are the other industries who became billionaires? It was pharma and food industry. So I think if you are looking, when the world needed these industries, pharma and food industries to become kind, okay, na, it actually went otherwise. Now, again, these are the moments which we need to reflect as a humanity, where we are going. Are we too materialistic? We are just focusing on small. I think people who are there, I think institutions who have resources, I think they need to just see if they have been blessed, they need to be generous and see how they can contribute for the betterment of society. And in this tough time, I think I feel we being an Islamic society, I think we need to keep remembering our values of faith, unity, self-reliance, care, generosity, resilience. So these are all the values I think we have been taught. And as a nation, as an organizations, I think whatever role which we are in, we need to make sure that we continue to practice these values taken in whatever role we have. That's the few words I would like to say.
Yeah, you're right. We actually tend to forget that we are also part of the world as much as any other person who's walking on the street is. So we are in the blind pursuit of money. We can tend to forget this thing that we are a human being as well, and we have seen that during pandemic as well, when the companies were racing towards developing a cure for COVID, and when the cure was developed, the vaccine was developed, they made billions and billions of dollars, all funded by the government, backed by the taxpayers' money. So we have seen that, and we have seen almost in almost every kind of industry, whenever their turn comes, they always make money at the expense of poor people across the world. But Yes, we, as a matter of fact, in our organizations, as I tend to agree with Khalid, we have to agree with the board or with the lenders, with the donors, with the the owners of the companies that we need to do something positive for the company as well as for the economy as a whole, for the nation as a whole. Um, that's very pertinent. So
No,
Shah,
my
so
final.
I thought
I
that
just want to
small,
add
small thing. I
one
think
point.
I would like to one point
Shah,
before. I think
Okay, Khalid, just
last year.
for a second, Shanul,
See,
that
मैं
yes,
कह रहा था कि I think
no, no.
last year at the time of convocation I actually met with of the students. मैंने बोला कि you spent 4 years at the university, ठीक है ना? So if you have to summarize what you have learned, so again, तो उसने बोला I think he said 2 lines. I think मैं आज तक I think I'm just 1 साल हो गया but I'm still quoting this. बोला sir what I have learned, मुश्किल वक्त में मेहनत कर, अच्छे वक्त में मदद कर. मुश्किल वक्त में मेहनत कर, अच्छे वक्त में मदद कर. I think he actually summarized this philosophy of life. I think it's a difficult time. We all need to work hard and but if we have good times, we need to be generous. Ji Khalid sir, sorry,
Yes,
जी
yes.
जी
I
जी
think
साहब.
Shanu made a good point, but I just want to clarify here it is that it's very important when you have a challenging time or crisis-like situation, you need to move cautiously, very cautiously. But again, you should realize that in that cautious phase, you should not uh, miss the opportunity right now you have for the future sustainability, right? For example, just like an entity which is primarily dependent on the brick and mortar model for their retail business and the operations. Now, at this point of time, one of the best strategy could be that you should stop on the brick and mortar model and try to move towards the digital distribution model of the business in order to save the hefty cost of all these brick and mortar model costs in the future. And the digital is the ultimate future. So if you miss that opportunity, that means you will completely out of the race in the future. So here is the a very balancing and very critical responsibility on the shoulder of the management and the CFOs that you should pick right combination of the strategy. And in that, for the sake of saving the cost, cautiously in the crisis time, you should not ignore the opportunity you have. And even if a certain kind of investment is required, you should go for that investment and cut the other unnecessary cost and the fats, as you mentioned, rather uh, skipping all these things and completely getting out from the race. So that's very crucial. Just example for example, I mentioned that like digital sort of innovation. First, you start with from the service point of view. Initially, all we have all the industry of the music industry are providing the digital products and digital services like IDFT services and ATM cards and all these things. It is not bringing the new investor money. Rather, it is basically facilitating the investors from the withdrawal point of view. Immediately, instantly cash withdrawal like bank account. So if just you can imagine, there was a time when people used to write number of checks. Now
Yes, that's
nobody can expect that he or she
it's
can continue
impossible to do that.
with that practice. If
Yeah. Yes.
if all the network of the ATM machines and all these things is right now not had not available, now you can imagine where would the banks would
It
stand
would have choked the
in terms of
financial system actually.
yes,
It's
absolutely,
technology is
absolutely.
helping a lot. Yes.
So you need the pulse of the future, and you need to move accordingly in that direction.
Point
Otherwise,
taken.
you will
Point taken.
go out of that.
I'll move on to my last question, Homer. Are there any possibilities? Is there any possibility to establish an early warning system in organizations to identify these risks that we have just talked about, be it financial risks, be it any technological risks, be it regulatory risks, as Halisa mentioned earlier. So, can organizations establish some early warning system?
Yes, of course. But going towards that last question, the important element, Khalid and Shahnur, is the balance And Shah Usman, we must have looked at the CFO conference theme, which is Resilient CFO, Balancing the Agenda for Tomorrow. And I, being the lead CFO organizing committee, we have establishing in all agenda items what we are doing is that we should not miss the best for future opportunity. At this point in time, I am too supporter of stock market. So this is the time for the people to, in local terminology, just आप लोग पेटियां भरना शुरू कर दें because this is the lowest time the stocks are at least priority level and their profitabilities are on high peak, but you can look at their stock prices. So you must not skip the bus for future bus. And once you miss it, then of course the larger the larger chunk of gain will be missed out. Now, to moving towards your question regarding the early warning system, yes, people in good multinational and good organizations which had a brand, good, I must say, their skills are big. They have their risk management departments are there. But to move rather those risk management department taking the initiatives, there are certain other elements which, of course, the pulse of economy, and there are certain individuals in the organizations, most probably the finance guy and the operations guy, who are looking at the pulse of the organizations, whereby they can just click on the button. Like, look, what I see is the next 3 months time we will not be producing anything. Take the example of automotive sector in Pakistan right now. You yourself have been to House of Habib, and you know right now these automotive sectors are keep on extending their shutdown periods. So why are not they deciding that look, we are closing for next 6 months? They keep on extending their month on month shutdown of their periods. It means that in this uncertainty periods, the alarming situation can be ringed once, can be ringed twice, but it should not be ringing at all the times because at this we are right now at the point where the alarming signals are keep on ringing at all the times, and unfortunately we have to embrace it, and for we have to embrace it, being resilient and being having those 7 qualities of being resilient, that we have to have conviction that something has to move on in a positive manner, and for that matter we have to retain our staff, we have to retain the quality of our products. And one more important thing, where I must raise this question, that the uh, hue and cry is being created when the Sun government has introduced the minimum wage bill of rupees 44,000. So these type of things, some of the organizations who have their CSR budgets, who have their DNI budgets, they can cope with that. But some of the organizations who are firing people may lay off the people and then raise the wages to 44,000. So in that perspective, this resilience and the conviction is the most important thing which has to be there after the alarming bells.
Right. Thank you, Sumer, and thank you, everyone. My final question, just a quick one. What is the one key element? This is not related to the topic today, but just I be taking the opportunity for your presence. What is that one key element that have given you the success that you got so far? What is the one key trait or one key element that you have practiced all along your life so far that have made you successful? Shanu, can you start on that one, please? Just a final comment, brief one, please.
Okay, I'm talking about as an institution perspective and the personal capacity.
Both. You can say both about both. Yeah, no problem.
I think I would say it is the topic which is resilience. I think what and it's an if we are looking, I think the American Psychological Association, it's a learned skill. It's not a people are born by it. So one needs
Yeah.
to learn and practice it at a different point in time. And again, I would say that keeping the balance between the worldly and spiritual life. So with the faith and then constantly following the value system. So I think whether it's a good time or I think it's a challenging, difficult time, one is to have
So values guide you through all the
faith,
times that
courage,
good or what.
especially, and then the
Okay.
resilience is the power. So I think, and then
Resilience.
same applies to the organization. I think this organization who are resilient, I think especially apply prudence and then use consciousness and wisdom, I think progress. So these are
Right.
the views, whether it's applied to the individuals or institutions. I
It
think.
applies to both. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Khalid
you.
sir, what have you think? What are your thoughts? What have you
I think
done in life so far that have made you successful?
I think the ultimate recipe for the success it would be a brief phrase: continuous learning, evolving, reinventing. Learning, evolving, reinventing. Because whatever you place in place as a strategy, as a business direction, as a business goal, you need to continuously rethinking, re-evaluating it, readjusting it, just continuously tweaking, because the world is very rapidly changing. We are living in a changing landscape and an extremely changing world environment. So we cannot live with the status quo. That's the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
From the professional point of view, being the CFO, I think we have a very challenging role. One, yes, we have to be the business partner, simply
Mm.
acting as a just financial steward, and the custodian will not serve and will not make the justice with the position towards the organization.
Mm.
Rather, you definitely need to work as an effective business partner and
Yes.
go
True.
with the CEO hand by hand. But again, at the same time, you also have a very crucial responsibility of raising voice on any potential risk which you are foreseeing or
Mm.
which you feel potentially.
Yes.
Because
So we,
no other
as
department,
CFOs,
because no
we are
other
responsible for
department
creating,
from
yeah, for
functional
creating financial
head
discipline in the organization. Yeah.
will be responsible for such voice raising, except
Yes.
you or the compliance and the audit. So
Yes.
it's again, so it's a dual sort responsibility.
Right. Thank you, myself. Homer, final note, just a brief one.
Just yeah, the brief one. The brief one is the perseverance. This is
Perseverance.
the
Yeah.
yes. This is the most important thing. I believe this is the sum of what we all discussed. The resilience is there, keeping the
Mm.
doing the all things at same time for longer period of time to make sure that consistently you get the things done or the quality piece.
Thank you so much, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion, and it was very eye-opening for me. Very candid feedback, very pertinent comments, and very deep, thought-provoking comments from you guys. And I hope the viewers that would be viewing this on YouTube would have similar thoughts as I have. Thank you so much for joining, and inshallah, we'll meet sometime again in future. Thank you very much.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
Hafiz.